This episode is brought to you by Paintzen.
You think about like how someone experiences a space and as they walk through the entryway, and if that's something that's more bold and interesting, like how then does the hallway translate to the dining room and the living room, and kind of how it's kind of all has like a nice balance.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy Devers and this is Clever. In this special Clever Extra, we are talking about wall power. Walls are the backdrops of all our spaces. They need to function structurally, yes, but they also are in the prime position to set the tone, ambiance, and vibe of our lives. That's a hefty job. Given that we've all been spending a lot of time inside lately, many of us are aching to refresh or redesign our surroundings. It's a direct relationship. Uplift our spaces, uplift our spirits. So today we're talking about wall treatments and the power of paint and wallpaper to transform, brighten, warm, refresh, clean, personalize, and punctuate a space. I've brought in two experts to help break down the style and execution of wall treatments. DeBois, interior designer, and Meghan Stewart, color consultant and director of sales for Paintzen, a service for both interior designers and design enthusiasts that handles everything you or your clients need for your painting and wallpaper projects. We're talking inspiration, trends, how-to, and services that will make it easy and fun, whether you're thinking about trying on some wallpaper in your powder room, or you're an interior designer looking to streamline the process on multiple projects. So let's start rolling.
My name is DeBois. I'm an interior designer. We're based in New York and we do projects near and far. It's a bit of a mix of residential and commercial projects, and it always varies a bit. Sometimes it's a little bit more on the heavier on the residential side and not so much on the commercial, but it's a nice blend. And we have an office in Gramercy and I live in Chelsea. I enjoy doing this because it's something I really love.
My name is Meghan Stewart, and I work for Paintzen. I lead our inbound sales and trade and partnership division of the company, which helps customers and trade partners alike turn their projects into a reality by providing them with a seamless customer experience through technology expertise that enables us to provide a white glove service and a high quality paint job to our customers. And that covers everything from quoting, scheduling, color expertise, and full execution. We do what we do because we want to be able to bring a revolutionary service to our customers. There's no one really in the space doing this right now, and we want to make painting attainable for everyone, and making sure that we're giving back people's time by providing a solution that is a quick one-stop shop that provides everything they need and a beautiful paint job along with it.
Wow. Well, I love paint for everyone because I am a firm believer that paint and wallpaper and wall treatments in general absolutely impact your environment, which then impacts your sense of joy and well-being. It can make you feel small and stifled, or it can make you feel expansive and creative. And I think that we all can utilize our inner designer to make sure that our environment helps support us be the best people we can be in the world. And Casey, I know that you design for a living as an interior designer. This is your expertise. Where in the process, when you're conceptualizing a space, where does wall treatment land?
These opportunities bring like joy to the space. So with wall coverings and wall treatments, it's usually one of like the earlier stages of the design process, as we want to select all the elements in the space to kind of tell a story. With that said, like in complete redesigns, it's the first thing we do off the bat, as it kind of sets the palette and helps with deciding room by room, like how the spaces kind of go together. And then sometimes in existing spaces, or when we're working with a client, or if they're just refreshing a space, we would then bring in papers to complement what's already there. But I think it's one of the very first initial things that we want to bring into the design process.
It sort of kicks off everything else that kind of comes into this space is sort of anchored by what you're deciding to do with the walls.
Exactly, yeah.
What kinds of choices have you made for various types of spaces? I mean, we know that paint and wallpaper can really make a difference in terms of maybe dividing up a cavernous space or making a really small space feel more bright. Can you give us some examples of some specific choices that you've made that have been really successful in certain kinds of spaces?
I think some spaces initially, like for instance, entryways and powder rooms, you can go a bit more bold. And in smaller spaces, wallpaper actually has the ability to make a space feel larger, and it definitely makes it feel more interesting. And in terms of like design, it's a highly effective way to kind of personalize a space.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, there's so many interesting wallpapers that the possibilities are like kind of endless. So I think like those spaces are something that's like a really interesting opportunity. But you kind of at the same time want the whole house to tell you think about like how someone experiences a space and as they walk through the entryway. And if that's something that's more bold and interesting, like how then does the hallway translate to the dining room and the living room, and kind of how it's kind of all has like a nice balance.
Yes, and I'm particularly interested, when you mentioned it needs to reflect the personality of the person who's going to be inhabiting that space. I think in so many ways, we don't have control over the architecture of our space if we're a renter or if we are fortunate enough to have like a brownstone in New York. It's certainly not something we conceived of from the beginning and built for our own use. So we're adapting ourselves to an existing space. Wall treatments can do so much to make that space feel like it's yours. Like I live here, like my personality is in these walls. Mm-hmm. Do you have some examples from projects where you've really helped a client just express themselves?
Even sometimes in rentals, we're doing paint and wallpaper just because if you're going to live there for several years, wallpaper in many ways is art in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends too. Like most bedrooms, I would say we want like a more calming, relaxing atmosphere. So we might do something with like a more textured wallpaper that's not so busy. So like a grass cloth or something with like a very simple pattern. We've done bedrooms before where like the entryway into the master bedroom, like the hallway is like a more of a toil, but like in an interesting colorway where it's not so traditional. It's like a new age take on that. And then the bedroom itself has the grass cloth.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's all about like transforming these spaces because it really does then create this warmth and this atmosphere that brings you more joy and happiness.
Oh yeah, it makes all the difference. You wake up on the right side of the bed when you feel really good in your space. I also think it's a pretty powerful tool to define and set off the architecture, particularly if you have molding or woodwork that really makes your place special. Or if the bones are something that need to be celebrated, you can do so with just a simple contrast.
Mm-hmm. No, totally. My favorite thing is to kind of mix wallpaper. Like I've even gone as far as getting like hand printed vintage papers off of like eBay and Etsy that are no longer available, but they have like the amount of rolls that we need. But then we mix that with more modern furniture and it kind of has like more of an eclectic mix.
Oh, that sounds awesome. So what kind of paint colors are you loving lately in addition to these exciting wallpaper finds?
So it's funny because I feel like we go more bold with the wallpaper
mm-hmm.
because I think we want to love the paper. And I think that's more of a commitment. When you love it, it's not going to age itself so quickly, I guess. But with paint colors, I feel like we tend to do more neutrals.
Mm-hmm.
So like in larger spaces, I'm a big fan of many different shades of white. There's so many different shades of it. And even in times we've had clients who've purchased new homes or like the kitchen was like an off-white and they weren't considering painting it, but we were like, it would make a world of a difference to do a brighter white. And the whites I'm a big fan of. There's nothing like better than like a really crisp white trim or molding. And also too like shades of gray, whether it's warm or cool grays. And then some more like dramatic colors like a dark navy or black, which I still even like consider those colors, like all those colors neutrals. But
yes. And I think it also matters if your clients or anyone likes art on the walls. You definitely don't want to choose colors that are going to compete with the art, but maybe that will set it off. Or if there are a lot of photographs going on, you want to work in a way that sort of sets off these decorative elements in a way that celebrates them as opposed to create something that makes you
like competition.
Yeah, that mm-hmm. tension makes me so stressed.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
And Meghan, what are you seeing in terms of general trends from the customers, both your trade and consumers? Are you seeing colors that are popular? Are you seeing wallpaper make a comeback? What's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. I would echo Casey's sentiment 100%. So our customers, both trade and consumers, typically, since I've been doing this for the past 7 years with Paintzen, have always stuck with neutrals. White, your grays, your beiges, and your grays. They like to have their walls be, the foundation for everything else around it. You have to complement the permanent fixtures like appliances and flooring, while also, like you were mentioning, competing with furniture and art and photographs. So, really having that great blank canvas that's so versatile. If you do, want to change things up, get new throw pillows, you want to make sure everything still works together. So our customers typically stick with neutrals. Every now and then you'll get a sprinkle of, a darker green or a navy, especially on cabinets, tuxedo cabinets of doing, white on top, a darker color on the bottom. So that's pretty much the extent of how crazy we're seeing color being used these days. Mm-hmm. But with wallpaper specifically, people are really taking, I don't want to call it a risk, but they're being more daring with it. And I think that's an excellent way to go, right? You want to have this pop of something that it's kind of, surprising in a space, especially powder rooms. We've even seen with our trade customers utilizing a fun wallpaper on ceilings, walk-in closets, really taking advantage of using grass cloths, throughout a living room or a bedroom. So we do see our fair share of wallpaper requests quite often with our trade partners. Almost every project also includes wallpaper of some sort, and our typical B2C customers are also using it quite frequently.
That's so fun. Wallpaper is such a great way to bring in color pattern and texture. I'm excited to see it come back.
Oh, yeah, it's coming back.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. Yeah. And we have had some requests where, I'm like, that's an interesting paper. I don't know where that's going. But once you install it, it's really incredible how it truly transforms a room. It's kind of like sometimes when you see clothes on the rack and you're like, that looks awful. And then you put it on, you're like, wow, I'm so glad I tried this on. This is going to be amazing. So it really does transform a space, and you can use it so many different ways. And I think people should really be taking advantage of that.
So, Meghan, I'm also curious to know, are you seeing certain behaviors? I mean, because you're in a position to be able to witness how people are using your service. Are people more inclined to do a short paint job just to do a quick refresh? Are you seeing a lot of flipping out there? Are renters making use of a service like this in order to, like we talked about earlier, kind of move in, make the space their own, but still be able to turn it back to white on move out and get their deposit back? How are humans making use of paint and wallpaper in a behavioral kind of way?
Yeah, absolutely. So our customers utilize us in, varying ways. So first, people who are buying homes, they want us in before they actually move in. Understandably so, right? There's no furniture in this space. We can move around as we please. Things go a little bit faster. So when people, buy a home, they bought it. This is, their actual home owners, they want to make it their own, as quickly as possible. So with Paintzen, we're able to be so flexible with people's timelines, right? They close and they want us in there the next day. We're in there and we're taking care of everything for them. We know that moving and buying is such a stressful time in people's lives. They have to coordinate so many different vendors, so many things to close on a house, right? And we're here to just make all of that simple. Let us know what we need to do. We'll give you that quote. And we're in there within, 72 hours, and we take care of all the logistics. So a lot of owners like us to come in when they first purchase to make sure that, we're truly transforming their space. As for renters, even though they're not owning the space, they still have to live in it for however long their lease is. And we see a lot of people using us to either paint a living room, paint the bedroom, truly make it theirs. And when people are moving out, moving into a new space, they use us a lot to then paint that space back to white, like you mentioned, to get their deposit back. And then we're in there painting their new space, the next day to make sure that everything is as seamless as possible. Because we have that flexibility, we can be in one apartment one day and then we're in another one the next day. And we're helping out that customer on two separate, apartments and things like that.
That just made me think of something. Moving is so stressful, and you may or may not be working with a designer to design your space before move-in, but a lot of people really aren't. They found the house that they like or the apartment that they like, and they're moving in. They want to get it painted to make it fresh before they move in, but maybe they don't want to make all of the design choices just yet until they've lived there for a little bit. But what if they're scared to make color choices, but they still want to get it painted before they move in? Do you have relationships that you're able to utilize to help people feel confident about what paint choices they're making when they're stressed and frantic about moving?
So, we always look to our trade partners for advice and see what they're doing in, the color space to help out. But our team also has color consultants on staff that have been trained. We do everything remotely through our technology. So with just a few photos, we can easily, help people decide, what color is best for them. We send them out swatches so they can see the colors in real time. And they're pretty big 8x8 swatches, so you can see those. We provide PPG paint. So, we have that expertise and that capability to be able to really guide someone and to help them with a color choice, whether they want to go bold or whether they're looking to find that perfect white, that looks great in all varying times of day and different kinds of spaces. But they've been trained to help customers with exactly that problem.
So, Casey, I want to talk about the process with you. You're designing spaces day in and day out for multiple clients. I know you work at the residential level, but also at the commercial level, correct? And
Yeah.
so you've got a lot going on all the time. What are some of the pain points that you've seen frequently or that you've had to deal with and work through in terms of wall treatments, wallpaper installation, or paint coordination, all of that?
I think on like the very primary level, it's with clients, whether it's commercial and residential, it's like just setting expectations. And again, like how Megan just mentioned, like the samples, very often when clients, when we're showing samples, we'll show them physical samples. We'll show them maybe photos of the paint color in a space. We also have like probably a solid like 20 to 30 colors that are kind of just our go-to, that we know will work with certain lights. So it's kind of just having the expectation set there. And also to just making sure, like if we're using a grass cloth, getting bigger samples, making clients aware of seams and what the full installation looks like. A lot of times with wallpaper too, they send you a sample and it's like 4x4 and like you don't see the full pattern. So we want to make sure that they know what the finished project would look like, whether we like Photoshop looks together or whatnot. And even too, like there's other little things like making sure ceilings are even, because sometimes you have a wallpaper with a busier pattern. And whereas like if the wall was painted, you would have never known that there's a 6-inch drop from one corner to the other, or the floors are uneven in an old building. And the wallpaper then makes it look more noticeable. So there we might just do something that's like a more like a custom mural or a stripe, or that just might be a textured wall. And I think this all in all, then in the process of installation, like we want someone, because a lot of these papers are a little bit complex and they all need to be installed by a professional. So there's like a process of managing the installers and making sure they're aware of, the installation requirements, the instructions, and make sure they have all those details. It's hard to say because now we've used Paintzen for so long and we haven't had so many issues. But I would say in the past, like, if we're using a buildings contractor or someone that the client knew, there's just more hand holding and it's a little bit harder to manage the project. Or if we show up and the painters don't have the supplies they need or the materials, or they don't have a tall enough ladder, it slows down the timeline and there could be issues with not enough labor and it takes them longer to finish the project. So there's just like lots of little hiccups that could happen along the way.
Oh, and all those hiccups, I mean, it's a domino effect for someone like you, right? If something doesn't go right on one job, it takes your attention away from focusing on another job. I'm sure if you have contractors that you have a good relationship with and you really rely on, you want to be able to spread them out across your jobs, but then that requires managing their time as well as your own.
100% a domino effect.
Yeah, and it seems like it could become
There's like tighter timelines where, we have X amount of days to finish paint and wallpaper and then the furniture's coming.
Yeah.
And we always give like a little bit of a extra days, but sometimes if there's an issue or if they were promised they finish in 4 days, but we gave them 6 and they're still not done, then we run into problems.
Right. I know from personal experience, but also from all the people that we've talked to on this podcast, that like there are these ways that your job becomes more management than creativity.
100%.
And that takes the fun out of it and also puts a strain on the way that you're able to develop and deliver really, truly creative solutions to your clients. So Megan, I mean, Paintzen was developed specifically to kind of alleviate a lot of those problems, those pain points for designers and for consumers. How exactly do you work with people to smooth out those those problems?
So, Paintzen comes in, for a numerous amount of ways, to really help our trade partners and our customers. So first I'll get into basically our network of contractors and how we work to source and, get the best of the best. So we have a large contractor network around the country. Paintzen's live in 11 markets throughout the U.S. as of right now. All of those contractors are background checked, licenses are verified, they're fully insured. They're all interviewed. They go through test projects with our operations team and our vendor operations team. The reference check to make sure that their work is, absolutely high standard for us. We receive a lot of inbound interest to the platform, and every single one of those is interviewed and, and taken for consideration to be on the platform, because we have that breadth. It only takes us 72 hours to actually begin a project once it's booked. So we know how hard it is to find installers. They're a very rare breed. So gone are the days are scrambling to find one for your client's project, finding a painter. You're not meeting with 5 or 6 different contractors now to get different quotes, to get different proposals, to walk them through the same job 5 or 6 different times, to have different options. We take care of that all for you. So Paintzen controls all of the pricing, all of the scheduling, all of the logistics, all of the paint ordering, the delivery, the project management. We're a one-stop shop to make sure that, everything is done without taking any time away from our trade partners or our customers. That's all on us. We personally schedule the contractors based upon skill set, availability, and their location to a job. And then our team, the way we handle quoting is we have an online tool. They can go right online to our quote flow, we call it, and you can get a quote right there automatically for interior painting. But we also have a staff of, 6 people on my team who are ready to help customers from beginning to end to put a quote together. So we only need just a few details to get everything together for you, and you're getting a quote back immediately, which includes the labor, the paint, the supplies, the tax if applicable, any and all sundries that are needed to complete the work. It's an all-inclusive hard quote. We don't change our quotes, when we get to the site. So you don't have to worry about, walking a painter through a job and then, when am I getting this quote back? It's ready in your inbox. And not only that, we do quote out custom stuff. So even if it's not automated through our systems just yet, you're still getting that quote back within an hour. So you can have answers to your customers immediately about pricing and things like that. Also, if you want to have 6 different proposals, I want to include walls in this one. I want to include ceilings in this one. I want to do one with and without the wallpaper. We're there and making those changes for you immediately. So, you're going to have rapid fire responses from our team. Not only that, we're helping, like I mentioned earlier, with all of the paint selection, right? So we provide PPG paint. If you want swatches, we'll overnight them to you. You'll have them the next day. You don't have to worry about estimating how much paint you need. Our technology does that for you. And it's delivered or, picked up and with the painters, the day of the job. So you don't have to worry about going to the paint store anymore, as well as, making sure that you're getting a fair quote. We're using average labor rates and scopes of work, to properly price out all of your projects. And also we're able to accurately timeline how long this job's going to take, right? So, you need to know, how long is this job going to take if you have, like Casey mentioned, other installations, people are moving, right? So we're able to do that with our technology and say, it's going to take about 4 to 5 days, and we're going to stick to that 4 to 5 days, right? So because our technology, we're able to provide such insight into our projects for our customers that they know that, they're able to provide other accurate timelines to other vendors as well. And not only this, we also have full project management. So you don't have to worry about, like I was mentioning, sourcing the contractor or having all of that communication. Our project manager takes care of that all for you. So that main point of contact speaks with the crew beforehand, goes over the entire scope of work with them. Any logistics that need to be coordinated, they handle. Any requests you have during the project, they'll handle as well and speak with the crew. They'll coordinate, if you want to leave a lockbox for them, little things that you never think of, they're all there to be with you 24/7 and, throughout the entire project as well. And lastly, we have our 100% satisfaction guarantee, so if there is anything in a rare case that you're not satisfied with, we come back free of charge to make sure you're completely happy. And, our number one goal here is just complete customer satisfaction.
It's really amazing. I'm very thankful.
Oh, thanks, Casey.
Yeah, no, Casey, how does it impact your business and your working relationships with your clients? It sounds to me like you can design to your heart's wildest dreams and then just quickly put numbers to what that might cost and then hand over the painting and the wall treatments to to somebody else to deal with, and you can focus on the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's such a great partnership. You have your account manager. There's this open communication. All of their contractors are so lovely and so pleasant. And oftentimes I can request like the same teams that I've worked with. The contractors genuinely care too and get excited about the jobs, as excited as we are to like have this wallpaper installed. They're even keeping us updated, sending us photos. Like, for instance, there was an issue like a few weeks ago where we had these Schumacher rolls of like a herringbone grass cloth. And there must have been like in the way it was made, there was like one string of like a random color, where normally I feel like another contractor would just hang it. And then I would get there and be like, well, what's that? And they'd be like, oh, it's, it was in the paper. But like the hanger called us and was like, I don't know if you want us to do this roll or you should try to get a different one because it's different than the rest. So it's just like there's like a level of care and like it's super transparent. The willingness to come back when the roll came in. It's just like it saves us so much time. It's just been a really, really great partnership.
And I'd like to say, too, we're so thankful to be working with someone like Casey as well. Casey has been working with us for years now. We were reminiscing yesterday about some projects that we've done together, and she has such a creative eye and has such unique, ideas that we've really been able to, exert our creativity over the past couple of years with her projects. So, just having someone like her on our platform, lets us to be able to do some really cool things together. And, that's pretty much, what all of this is really about. So, it's great to have people like Casey on our platform that we get to work with, all the time.
I love hearing this. And also, I know we don't have an actual paint contractor on this phone call, but I love hearing that what I think is happening here through this relationship management is that the contractors working with you and your platform are able to also streamline their process and smooth out some of the tension that comes from working with designers and or individual clients on their own. So everybody's job is sort of made a little bit more easier to manage, which allows everybody to take more joy in what they're doing and have
absolutely
more care. And I've always been this is my soapbox, but I've always been so protective and frustrated for contractors who get a bad rep. They're always expected to estimate jobs where they don't have enough information. They don't have all the details. They're expected to deliver stuff they've never done before for a price that they've committed to when they don't exactly know how much it's going to take. They work with people who are instantly mistrustful and assume that they're going to somehow not do a good job. And it's just a really tense relationship. I don't think it needs to be that way. So I'm so happy to hear that this relationship sounds like it's mutually beneficial all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. We always say, at the Paintzen office, we have our customers, but our painters and the contractors are our customers as well, right? We need to make sure that we're doing right by everyone and providing everyone with a seamless experience. We're not here to provide an excellent experience for the customer and then have a stressful one for the painters, the wallpaper installer. So we needed to make sure that it's equal for everyone. And we do have some trade partners who just love some of our contractors and they always request them and they have really wonderful working relationships together. And it makes things that much easier and so much more. And it is generally much more fun, right? It's you're having the same guy install the wallpaper for all your projects. They have a great rapport. So it really does come full circle once you get things flowing.
Yeah, I love this. Okay, so now I do want to talk about your average DIYer and homeowner. I have a background doing a lot of DIY, home improvement, makeover television shows. And the first thing in those makeovers is they always hand the homeowners a bucket of paint and some rollers and say, okay, get this done overnight and we'll see you back here tomorrow. And I cringe so hard when that happens because I know that painting can be easy and you can do it well if you've done it before. But if you really have no experience, you can't expect to do a great job on a DIY project the first time. It takes planning, preparation, and a fair amount of skill and technique. And I'm not in any way trying to discourage homeowners from doing their own paint job, but what I am trying to be is honest about what your expectations should be. If this is the first time you've ever painted, you should not expect to get it done in one day and have really great, crisp cut-in lines and really smooth, even coverage. All that stuff is the mark of a professional. Meghan, I wonder if you have some tips for how your average non-designer, homeowner, renter, or DIYer can approach a paint or wallpaper project with a better chance of success and pleasure in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. What we always say to those kind of questions is, you really need to understand you're making sure you're realizing what the full extent of the prep is needed before you begin. That's key for us. Whether it's additional priming, necessary repairs that need to be made, determining if your walls are even painted in latex paint. Like a lot of older homes, a lot of older apartments, they're covered in oil-based paint. You can't paint over that with latex. You have to sand, you have to oil prime that, and then paint it over, or use oil-based paint, which is not the best to use, health-wise. So like figuring out the space that you're working with is absolutely key. If you have...
Preach it, sister. Prep is so important.
Yes. Think about we've had people come to us where, they saw a really awesome look on Pinterest where the trim and the doors were black and these walls were stark white and it looked so sophisticated and so awesome, but their existing condition of their walls, they weren't straight, right? So they taped it off, they took the tape off, and then you have the black trim is like all squiggly, it's all bumpy at the bottom, and it looks amateur, but you have to really understand the space that you're working with and what you can actually do. Same thing with wallpaper, right? So if you're a newbie at this, I would suggest your first time using something that doesn't have a pattern. So go with grass cloth, right? There's no repeat pattern. You don't have to worry about matching up your cut lines as much. And don't try to, wallpaper a space that's like super, super sophisticated or very intricate, right? So people may think that it may be easier to wallpaper a smaller space because it's less wall space, but think about you're in a cramped room. So think about a powder room, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're in a cramped room. There's only so much room. You have to work around your doors. You have to work around your windows, and there's only so much room for error. It's actually a lot harder than it would be to, install paper on a plain 10 by 10 wall because you have the freedom and things like that. Make sure you're using the proper kind of paper for the space, right? So let's say we've seen this before as well. So let's say, the existing walls are a bright white and you're installing a paper that's black or a very dark color. It's a little bit patterned. Mm-hmm. And you think, hey, I should be able to paper right over this, and you should be able to. But what we see is, you install that paper and then you see that stark white paint coming right through it, right through the seam lines. What we should have done is you should have painted that wall first in a color that matches the paper. It's all these little things you would never think to think about.
Yeah.
But my truth and, what I say to, my customers is just really think about the space that you're in. And if there's any complexities to it, you need to do your research and make sure you're attacking it the easiest way possible, because you don't want to do all this work, have it come out terrible, or spend most of your time going back and forth to the hardware store to get more supplies. So you just want to make sure that you are fully prepared to take on what you need to have done, have everything ahead of time, have your supplies, and then it should be a lot easier for you to complete that work.
I love everything that you just said, and it's so true. And also, so many times, and I have respect for this, but so many times DIYers and homeowners, they just don't know what they don't know, right? Yeah. They don't know what to look for in terms of prepping the walls. They don't know that the white wall is going to peek through those seams if those seams aren't perfect. They don't realize that trying to maneuver wallpaper in a tiny space and cut around windows is going to be a lot more difficult than a big plain living room wall, let's say. That's the thing. Trade professionals, we learn by doing. So we've learned all of this from actually making those mistakes in the field. So one of the things I actually like to recommend is if you're afraid to try something, then hire a professional first and be there. Watch how they do. Pick up, observe what they're doing. You'll see technique. You'll see how people cut in. You'll see how they prep a space. You'll see what they think about ahead of time. Ask questions. Be part of the process. Learn from them. And then tackle it on your own. Because then you'll have a lot more confidence in your own understanding of the project. It makes everybody enjoy it a lot more. But as I understand, small jobs are cool with you too, right? So if I'm just I want to try wallpaper, but I don't want to do it myself. But can I just hire somebody to do one wall of wallpaper?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we can certainly do accent walls of wallpaper. We want to be able to make sure that we're really utilizing our team the best of its ability. So I wouldn't want to call it a minimum, but we typically take on jobs that are either full rooms and more. But for wallpaper, we'll certainly do an accent wall, or we'll do, a powder room, a smaller space with that. That's fine with us.
Cool. So, Casey, what advice do you have for people who might be looking to do a light refresh on their space? Nothing too involved, but definitely want to give it just some freshness and new life.
Yeah, no, I think in some spaces that someone's been living in for a bit, a lot of buildings do allow like every 4 years to get like a paint refresh. So sometimes in rental apartments, when like a client we're doing furniture and they're not so interested in painting, I always ask and say, like, when was the last time you had your space painted? Because in a lot of rentals, you do have the ability to have it painted every so often. And they'll do like the typical apartment paint, which is like a beige, like an off-white. But if you purchase the paint, they can do the work for you. So in situations like that, that's like a quick fix to kind of improve and freshen up the space. I feel like fresh paint has just a world of difference.
It makes all the walls clean again, too.
It just feels just so much fresh. Yeah. We just did a new space where we repainted the walls a brighter shade of white, and we painted both the bedrooms. One bedroom's wallpapered with a custom mural, a kid's room, and then we have the master bedroom has a cork with a geometric pattern on it and like a light gray. And then we painted all the doors like a charcoal dark gray. And I think painting doors too is something that's like underrated, but we do that often because I think it just adds like a more dramatic like definition and just makes it look more like just bolder and richer, even if the walls are lighter. So it's like a nice balance.
I totally agree with that. And doors, though, are kind of a special beast if they have any sort of detail or relief or molding on them. They need to be painted with care because I hate brush strokes.
No, 100%. Yeah. And too, with like wallpaper, just fun accents in like laundry rooms, closets. Like there's just little things that you can do that add like this other element of fun in these smaller spaces. And I think before I didn't mention, but like kids' rooms too, a lot of times we use more neutral or like two-tone paper, or which is like just a white base with a color as like the accent, whether it's shapes or splatters or something fun, and we can do the whole room in it or the ceiling. But it also too, like kids' rooms have so much stuff in them already, so you don't want like the wall coverings to compete with that.
So Meghan, what advice do you have for executing some of these ideas that Casey just shared with us with the most amount of efficacy, efficiency, and honestly, joy? It should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it goes back to, prep, but also just like understanding any kind of like scheduling or budgetary restrictions that you may have, as well as utilizing certain resources. So if you're not hiring a professional right away, make sure you're consulting a color consultant, right? To make sure that you're choosing, the right color. There's nothing worse than, doing all this work and, you're half painting a room and you're like, I hate this color. So make sure you're asking advice, and utilizing swatches. Make sure you're looking at it at certain times of day. It's incredible how, depending on what wall it's on, the type of light you're in, the color can look completely different. So, it can be bright as day one day and then it's gloomy. It looks completely different. You change the light bulbs, that affects it too. So just making sure that when you're planning, just make sure you are thinking of every scenario possible to make sure you're picking the right color. So, it looks great year round. And when it comes to budgetary, items, if you want to just do some rooms first, use the rooms that you're going to be mostly in, right? So that's the kitchen and the living room. Take advantage of doing the common spaces first. That's what you're going to see the most. And it'll get you really amped up to do the rest of the home. And when it comes to wallpaper, I think people are a little bit surprised sometimes how expensive wallpaper can be. If that's making sure that, you're using a wallpaper that's within your budget, or start out with an accent wall. Don't do the whole space. Accent walls still pack that punch as well. We're just really planning and making sure that you're thinking well of your scenarios and making sure that you are doing this within a timeline that works for you, because as we kind of delved into this, this whole conversation, it's a lot of work. So, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. So make sure that you are actively planning to make sure that you're getting things done within a timeline that works for you and you're not putting in too much effort that you're overwhelmed.
Right. What I've seen so often too is that people rush into a project because they're super excited to see the results. And so they get a little impatient. But then halfway through the project, they realize it's all falling apart. Like the wallpaper's not going up how they thought it would. The paint's going on gloppy and they don't know how to correct. And I just feel like I wish you had just done a little bit more planning, a little bit more preparation. You would have felt a lot more confident about course correcting. Well, this has all been really fun and enormously informative. And it sounds like Paintzen is offering just an amazing, fantastic tool for both the trade and the consumer to help manage these jobs and actually access the joy of paint and wallpaper and the power of transforming their space in a way that's easy and fun. Well, Casey, we'd love to learn more about your work and see images of your projects. Where can we follow you on the web and social media?
You can follow me on Instagram. It's at Casey DeBois. And the website is www.deboisdesign.com.
And Megan, how can we keep track of Paintzen and maybe utilize your services if we're in the mood for paint and wallpaper?
Yeah, absolutely. Our team created a landing page just for Clever customers. So you can go to paintzen.com/clever, and that's PAINTZEN. And then you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn with our handle at Paintzen. Or if you're looking to chat with someone live on my team, you can call us at 855-336-4389. That's 855-336-4389. Or email us at trade@paintzen.com.
That's awesome. And we'll include all that information on the show notes too. So if you didn't have a pencil, that information will be available. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was great.
Thanks for listening. To find out more about Casey's work and Paintzen services, read the show notes. Either click the link in the details of this episode on your podcast app or go to cleverpodcast.com where you can also sign up for our newsletter. Subscribe to Clever on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can listen to all our past episodes in the archive on our website. Find the link in the show details. If you would please do us a favor and rate and review, it really does help a lot. And we love chatting with you on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us at Clever Podcast, and you can find me at Amy Devers. Clever is produced by 2VDE Media with editing by Rich Straffolino and music by L1011. Clever is proudly distributed by Design Milk.